award-winning director Barry Jenkins, and award-winning musician Flying Lotus. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Hello.
They gave me this sort of little capsule to run through his Ryuichi Sakamoto's many amazing credits, and he started his career in 1978 with his own album, and he was a pioneer in electronic music with Yellow Magic Orchestra. And he started composing music for films with Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. He won an Oscar with The Last Emperor. He has continued to innovate, change, and grow for his entire career. And he has so many different sounds. To get started, I want to ask each of you, what was your gateway drug into Ryuichi Sakamoto? What was your first occasion to hear his music and got you intrigued by his work?
First I just gotta say, man, it's kind of cool that there's this panel on Sakamoto, and it's two black dudes from America who are on the panel talking about him. I mean, I just think that's dope. But it also makes sense because the music is dope. I was just out of film school, and back in the day when we had actual cable with cable boxes, Sundance used to have a Sundance channel, and IFC had an IFC channel. And I was just like flicking through channels one night, and there was the samurai movie on, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And then the scene played, and these two samurai were dueling, and the score was just incredible, like incredible. And I was like, "What the hell is this?" That was a film called Gohato, which Mr. Sakamoto had written the score for. And back then, you couldn't just get on Spotify or iTunes. I went to eBay, and I bought both a bootleg because you couldn't get the movie. It hadn't been released in the U.S. I got a DVD of the film, and I got a CD-ROM of the score. And that kind of started, yeah.
Yeah. How about for you?
I think my introduction to Sakamoto, it was pretty all over the place. I had little bits and pieces of just like, oh, what is that? I know it and I love it. It sounds familiar and amazing. And those moments would happen often. And then, you're digging for records, trying to sample stuff. And that was really, I think, when I fell in love with the music and hearing it on a deeper level. And also hearing him finding hip-hop in what he was doing too. There was he had this sort of, I think of like a beat sensitivity, whereas it's like there was, even in the most melodic, kind of film score out thing, I can always find hip hop in what he does, and sample culture, just because it's where he comes from, I think, as well. And so my love for it and it just goes way back for me.
Well, you describe sort of his music as, even though it wasn't familiar to you, it has a familiarity. And I think there is that beautiful romanticism to his work that regardless of how harsh or intense it may be, there is that, there's that beauty to it. When you, after you had heard that sort of first score, did you find yourself diving back into his body of work, especially given the fact that it's not just his film scores, but this also extremely prolific electronic music, experimental music, all these other kinds of things?
Yeah, I mean, back then, no, because there wasn't a way to just just look up, Sakamoto music. You had to either find it. There was this record store in Tallahassee called Vinyl Fever. You either had to find something at Vinyl Fever, or you had to really go on a website like Epitonic and figure out what else Sakamoto is related to, and then somehow find that disc on eBay. So it wasn't this deep dive Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, something I came to very, very late in my Sakamoto life. So I'm kind of like a strange Sakamoto head in that way. But like Flying Lotus, there were some pieces that I would stumble on that I was like, what the hell is this? And if you watch Kohato, there are also pieces that are just like the most beautiful piano score, just a very plaintive piano rhythm, very similar to the film you guys are going to watch tonight. But then there's other stuff that is just like, I mean, it is, if you've seen The Revenant, you've seen a little piece of what you'll find in Gohato in full, just really aggressive kind of sounds. I don't know, I just thought it was dope that one person on one album could take you through that kind of a journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Stephen, you talk about the idea of his music identifying the sort of hip hop element in it. Can you talk about how his work has influenced yours?
Yeah, I think as far as his work in the intersection, it's pretty heavy. It's pretty deep, and it goes. When I started falling in love with the piano in another way, and he was one of the first people I started to kind of like chase after and try to kick his door down when I'm in New York. Where you at? What's going on?
Was there
And
an album of his that you particularly liked?
I wouldn't say there was an album. There's just it's his sense of melody because it transcends one record. It transcends a thing. It's just like the choices that he makes that are when you play or you listen. You're a music head. You hear the choices and you're like, oh well, okay. Oh, he did that. And it's like sometimes he'll play the cliche because he knows what it is, but it still works. And it's like, I think just having a sense of that too and having the awareness of where you're at, your references, your influences, the things, and being like, I'm put some of this Thelonious Monk in there. If you know it, you know it. Because he's his influences were all over the place. He was deep jazz head, crazy in the beats and stuff, but such a futurist too. And he would always be up on the new stuff. And I got to spend a lot of time with him, closer to the end of his life. But I always be curious about like the stuff he was like digging into when he was like getting on, like a lot of the inspirational stuff from his era.
Well, you said you got to spend time with him. I'm curious can you tell us a little bit more about what that experience is like, particularly given, like you said, that it was sort of closer to the end of his life, and also that, towards the end of his life, he was not, although he was obviously doing film scores, he was also, working with, like environmental recordings and these other things that were kind of deconstructing a lot of the processes that were more elaborate maybe when he first started doing composing.
Yeah, it's funny. When you look at some of the videos of him when he was a younger man, it's like you could see he's like, oh, this is the era where he had something to prove. He's playing fast and being flashy, and it's like a showman with his playing. He's doing like Jacob Collier type shit, you know. And later, everything's just so simple and intentional, purposeful. There's nothing out of place. It's just like neat, tidy, only what you need, and that I think is it's so confident, and you don't have to play fast. You can do everything slow, and it hurts, And I think that's it's just so cool. And when I was working with him, we worked must be 2019. He came out to LA and we worked together for about a week. He brought the silence with him. Like I was saying, he's just, my house is loud. You hear all the time, just like boom, all the time. And as soon as he shows up, it's like you hear a pin drop. He just brings that silence and incense with him. It's like, Cat had his own incense with him and stuff. And like, I'll tell you one that was really fun. I had the ceiling fan in my place. It was always going crazy, and like, we were recording stuff in there, and we were about to record some acoustic piano, and I pulled the lever, turned the fan off, and it suddenly just like killed the vibe in the room. we needed that ceiling fan in there. He just looked at it just like, he's like, you're gonna turn it back on, right? I'm like, yeah, I'll turn it back on. So it's part of the music.
Well, I want to get into about 5 different things you said there, just
That's
because of his. No, because of his. I mean, just his creative process has been thoroughly documented. Also, it's very relevant to this film that we're going to watch tonight. But before we do that, I'm curious, Barry, can you talk about to what extent he may have influenced or inspired your work subsequent to those discoveries that you made?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I am no stranger to silence in cinema as things go. When movies are very quiet. And I think with Sakamoto, you always see the power and the value in space and silence between notes. Is kind of how I like to phrase it. And again, my on ramp was this film Gohata, which Sakamoto didn't direct, but if you watch it, the score is very active in the way you receive that piece. And so as I went on my journey of filmmaking, I made a film called Medicine for Melancholy in 2008 that did not have any original score. But then when I made Moonlight, I was just sort of like bringing all these things that I had seen in the cinema that I love to the making of that film. And I never worked with the composer before. It's my first time working with Nicholas Bertel. And I remember telling him about Gohato and about how lovely it was that the score seemed to rise up, from the characters or from the scenario, from the environment, and this idea of piano being this thing that could be very plaintive, but also be very aggressive in a very tender way, which is how, by that point, I discovered this album called, I believe it's called Discord, by Sakamoto, that he released in 1998, and it's got all these movements like anger, grief, salvation, and just sort of like leaning into the way. Again, I don't know what this cat was like thinking or going through when he was making this music, but every time I would listen to it, I would just feel moved, and I wanted the music in my films to function that same way. I got to meet him once, and it was around Moonlight and If Bill Street could talk, because I was asked to program a series of films at Lincoln Center in New York of things that inspired Moonlight, and one of the films I programmed was Gohato. We actually tracked down a 35 millimeter print. And then when he released Coda, he spoke about the relationship between Moonlight and Gohato. And then the next year he came and saw a screening of If Bill Street Could Talk, and he was like very quiet. He was absolute stillness, and just a lovely human being.
Steve, you talked about the idea that when he was younger, he seemed like he had something to prove. And this film, Opus, is such an extraordinary statement, even though it's not contextualized by, his life story or a backstory or a setup or anything. I know you haven't seen the film. Barry, can you talk about, sort of your first experience in watching this and how maybe it was impacted by those previous experiences you
I
had?
mean, I'm just like I'm in a fog these days, so I just have no idea what anything is, what anything's about. So I had no idea what this film was about. I really just did not. And so I just put it on, and I thought, oh, this is lovely. I mean, the image is just stunning, and it's just Sakamoto in this room. And after about 7 minutes, I realized what it was I was watching. I knew with my ears, but then I started to know with my heart what I was watching. And it's just, I don't know, I can't even describe it. We were talking backstage. I was like, I'm glad we're doing this talk before the screening and not after, because I think it would be difficult to sit up here and talk about this man after what you guys are going to see. But at the same time, it's the same quality I find in the music. It can be like a sledgehammer, but it's the most gentle sledgehammer you will ever be hit with in your life. And I think also, too, it's just a really beautiful testament to, we all create things, and we just hope there's someone there to receive those things. And when I watched this film, I was so glad that I was able to receive this testament to Sakamoto in his own image.
Sure. There's, there are other albums that and other releases people have done. Black Star, David Bowie released right before he passed away. I'm curious if either of you have had the experience of maybe either, if not seeing a film like this, then listening to another record that you feel like unexpectedly encapsulated someone's life in the way that this might. I mean, you think about like Marvin Gaye's last recordings. You think about things like that obviously they carried this different weight than stuff that they did earlier in their career. Have either of you heard something that you feel like even approaches that?
First one that comes to mind is J Dilla Donuts. As that was a deep record for sure. Yeah, the context of that, he made a lot of that in the hospital bed. And yeah, it was. It felt like he put all the energy he had left into that record, but it still was new and it still felt like he was saying a lot, and also kind of capturing the essence of what we loved about him and his music.
Did you?
No, no. There's nothing like this movie that you're about. It made me have to like really grapple with my own mortality, and the idea of intellectually being extremely hyper aware of your mortality, and also being hyper aware of the things that you both have manifested, have given to the world, and whatever it is you can choose to give to the world with your last moments. So I've never seen anything like this. I found it incredibly moving. And then on the flip side, because I'm a fan of chopped and screwed music, I also found it incredibly fascinating because the pace of some of these pieces that he plays in the film are just different than the pace that they're played at, in their studio recordings. And so in a way, I felt like it was like a smile and a wink in a certain way, but I've never seen anything like this. I just can't even imagine. Yeah.
Well, to provide a little context, first of all, his son, Neo Sora, is the director of this film. I had the good fortune to be able to interview him earlier this year, and he talked about it really from a filmic standpoint. He, had, I don't even know how he was able to do it, but he was able to sort of compartmentalize it and tell this, to document this from a more technical standpoint than one that was so emotional. But Steve, you talk about these earlier recordings where there's so much movement, and there are Yellow Magic Orchestra tracks that he performs on a solo piano by himself in this incredible Tokyo studio that has just acoustically the most incredible sound you've ever heard. And it creates such a haunting experience. But then on top of that, I think you have the experience of you're watching someone who went through several days of recording to get all of the tracks that are performed here. And what I encourage all of you who are watching it to pay attention to is that there are these incredible pauses where he makes a mistake and he goes back and he starts over. And I don't want to. I'm
That's
trying not
mad
to too much.
spoilers. We real close to showtime, man.
Fair enough. Sorry, go.
Well, I can. I don't, but I can. One thing about Ryuichi, he was real cheeky, cat. He was real cheeky. He knew when he was gonna like play with your heart. That's the thing. So like that's why I haven't watched this movie, because I know he knows the recipe, and I've been kind of I wouldn't say crippled by his passing, but I have not been able to finish my project that I worked on with him for a while. I was mixing our stuff when I got the word of his passing. I was mixing it down, and I was in New Zealand, and I got the word, and it was just like instantly it just stopped. I just haven't picked it up since. And I feel more inspired to finish now doing this and talking here. So I'm glad we're here, because I haven't even listened to his music since.
Yeah, I've never seen anything. Like, imagine, like, we're in LA. Imagine whatever you think of Kobe Bryant. Kobe, Magic Johnson knows that he's got, a year to live and decides, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to Staples I'm gonna bring my kids out because they're filmmakers. We're gonna light up the floor, and I'm just gonna shoot J's. I'm gonna shoot the most beautiful J's. I'm gonna recreate all the best moments from my career, and we're gonna film it. And the light is changing. It's just imagine, and then watching that a year and a half after Magic Johnson has passed away. Or imagine Aretha Franklin knows that she is going to pass. Everybody knows she is going to pass. And she decides she's going to book the Apollo and book one of the best film crews she possibly can find. And she's just going to sing arias from the stage of the Apollo to an empty house 5 nights in a row. And a year and a half after Aretha Franklin passes, you get to watch this performance in close up with pristine sound. That is what you guys are going to sit here. Hope you brought your hankies and watch after this. So I understand what you mean because you spent time with this cat. That, yeah, it's a hard thing to watch. I was blindsided. Like, I honestly, thank you, because I forgot that this film existed, and maybe that could be selective memory, selective distance. I have no idea. But I just, oh,
I've been
Sakamoto,
avoiding it.
Sakamoto Flying Lotus, yeah, I'll come down. And then my assistant sent me the video, and I put it on the movie, and I started watching it. And then I stopped, and I did Google. I was like, what am I watching? And I was like, oh, fuck. But of course, I kept watching. I had to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it is a very emotional experience, and yet because it is so intimate, and it is, but at the same time, I think that even though it encapsulates his work, I don't think it's meant to encapsulate his life, and that's actually what I think is really remarkable. I mean, like because he's not performing. It's not a greatest hits concert. He's bringing in tracks, some that are fully original, new. In many cases, he's reimagining things that have existed, and I think that's actually what's so exciting about it. In spite of the unfortunately funereal tone, sometimes is that there is this kind of beautiful sense that his creativity was just as active, as vivid, even in those final months of his life as it was before then.
I mean, it's stunning. It's just stunning. I never do this, but I recommend after you see the film, you're gonna go home, whatever. There's a review of this film by Alyssa Wilkinson of the New York Times. I highly, highly, highly recommend you go home and read that review after you've seen this film. Sometimes great art inspires great art, and I have read this woman's writing. She's a great critic. This is like at another level of someone just completely engaging with the piece. Alyssa Wilkinson, New York Times. Just type Google in the title of the film. Like you won't regret it after you see the movie. It's like just a stunning piece of work. Inspired by a stunning piece of work.
Yeah. Steve, revisiting this, or at least contemplating revisiting the work that you've done, are you bracing yourself at all? Because, like you said, you haven't seen this yet.
Yeah. I've been embracing. Been embracing for a little minute. Just it's time. It's time. It's time. Yeah, it's all meant to be.
As an artist, as an artist seems like he's exceptionally good at meeting people on their level. Like he was working. He did piano on a solo member of BTS like in 2023. I mean, he was very eclectic in his collaborations. You talk about that silence. You talk about those things. Was he? Was he taking your lead, or?
Dude, let
or
me tell you. I'm gonna tell you a good one. This is a good one.
Okay.
So one of the first things he does, I'm with my strings guy, Miguel Atwood Ferguson. We're chilling at the house. Ryuichi shows up, brings the silence and the incense. And then he looks at my piano. It's a beautiful Steinway, beautiful red and black Steinway. And I know what he's going to do. I already know what he's going to do. He's going to play the piano, right? Wrong. Okay? This man, before he even plays it, opens it up and starts messing with my girl.
Like a prepared piano, yeah.
Yo, like he's got his hands like rubbing her in a certain way, and touching the strings and doing things. I'm looking at Miguel like, oh, what is happening? Miguel's like, yo, it's cool, man, it's cool. Like, you sure I don't. It was next, and the things he was doing, and he got some weird weird noises out of it. But I'll tell you, I never let another person manhandle my piano like that. It's like that was a real specific. I was like, whoa, because that might be the most expensive thing I own. I don't want to, don't do that.
Barry, you mentioned that you had played some of his music on another one of your sets while you were.
Yeah, on the Underground Railroad, because it was such a long shoot. Maybe every 40 days we would take footage from the dailies, and we would just take these master shots, just these like 90-second, 2-minute, 3-minute shots, and we would just cut them together and just put them on monitors around set on really big screens during lunch, away from the filming, so the crew, because in a film set typically only maybe like 15 people get to see what's actually happening. And then there's all these different layers. And the further out you get from the main set, the less of the work you're doing you actually see. And so we thought, oh, we need to, every 30, 40 days, just put together these reels of footage so people can see the manifestation of their labor. And just me being me, I was like, yeah, we got to put Sakamoto on it because we didn't have a score at that point. So throughout the filming of the Underground Railroad, the people making it would be watching our footage cut to Sakamoto, cut to this Discord album that came out in '98. It was really moving music, but I mean, it was heavy. I mean, it was like, God damn, man, what are you trying to do to people? And I never really told him that. I guess I could have. And nobody but the crew ever saw that footage. But that album, if you've heard it, it has all these really interesting spoken word sort of pieces that begin at the top of these tracks from people in Sakamoto's life and people from different walks of life. And just the music in it was just so operatic, Baroque and operatic. And I felt like that was in league with the show that we were creating.
His film work is in many ways, it really mirrors the sort of maximalist filmmakers. I mean, Bertolucci, Pedro Almodovar, Iñárritu, Brian De Palma. I mean, one of the scores of his that I always fell in love with, which is sort of a lesser De Palma movie, is Snake Eyes, but it's this incredible, and then incredible piece in Femme Fatale as well. Do you guys have favorite, aside from the ones maybe you've already mentioned? I want to open it up to the audience, but
Gohato is up there, man.
Yeah,
like,
of
nothing
course.
touches Gohato. Nothing touches it. That movie's just like, nothing touches it.
Mm-hmm. How about for you?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the Revenant stuff was really good, but
Hey, go peep Gohato, bro.
yeah, all right, yeah. All right, I'm on it. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I want to open it up, but also, the thing that is continued to be so rewarding about listening to his music is that you discover these new movements in his work. I first moved out to LA in 2001. I'm writing for a little alt weekly in the Valley, and I'm begging publicists for albums that he did with Alva Noto, which one of the tracks that he did, you listen to it and it sounds like, the only way I could ever think to describe it is like, it sounds like a mosquito on the surface of water. Like it's this, this beautiful sort of, microscopic ambience. And he actually adapts one of those tracks in this film. And so it's kind of remarkable how he transitions from all these giant kinds of things. But it feels like if you start in one place, you don't stay there. You go to some other genre or subgenre. I mean, Yellow Magic Orchestra was very instrumental in a lot of electronic music. Let's open it up. Do we have any questions out there?
Turn on the movie already.
Yeah. Yeah, right there, right in the middle.
It's more like a general question for the museum. I know Mr. Sakamoto, he left mixed reality counter dummy. I'm wondering if the museum have any plan to bring that mixed reality counter to LA.
That would be cool. I heard about that. Yeah.
It was open in New York last year. I'm always waiting to come to LA.
I'm going to speak for the museum and say yes.
All right. Yeah.
Well, I can't do anything about it, but but I'm trying.
Yeah, I mean, remarkably, he did leave behind this like amazing body of work. I mean, you know, if my first experience was with The Last Emperor, and then I remember playing the orchestra, which he did in like 1988, which he was doing sort of like these things, and then he did playing the piano, and then he did another playing the piano, and then he did Back to the Basics, and then he did, you know, all these incredible things. So you have an amazing amount of work that you guys can explore after this. That you know, his piano melodies are unbelievable, but they lead to all these other, you know, rhapsodically beautiful things. Another question right over here.
Hey,
One, I was wondering, was there anything that Sakamoto had told you while working together that still kind of resonates in your head? Not hauntingly, but you know, kind of like.
Maybe that you carry with you.
everything was always, like little haikus. Is beautiful. It never stopped. It was exactly what you think it was. But I think the one thing I always think about with him is when I was trying to dial up some sounds, some patches on the Moog, and he just was like, "Oh yeah, can it be warmer? Can it be warmer?" Was the thing. It was like he just was always trying to seek that warmth, the warmth in every time where I was looking for something. I was like trying to find. I was trying to. It's always the warmth he was looking for, which I don't blame him. I want it too. I don't want no cold shit. But it was very specific. That was like the rule of thumb. It had to start there.
And make sure to turn the ceiling fan back on.
Yeah,
Right?
turn that fan on. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a vibe, dude. It was a whole vibe.
Sure, sure. More question. Right here in the middle.
I was just wondering, Philo, if there was any pieces of your own, apart from obviously what you were working on with him, that maybe we could see his influence on you coming through. Like any,
Oh, that's a good question. Probably.
I think he was looking for a name, not a yes or a no.
I'm sure he was, but I'm like, yeah. There's some stuff. There's some stuff. The last couple records, for sure. There's some moments on there, definitely. But to be specific, nah.
All right. Did I see somebody else?
We sampled him on the Thundercat album, 2 albums ago, 3 albums ago. Message for Austin was the last track on that album.
One or two more questions right over here.
I kind of don't have a question. I just want to participate so bad because I'm such a huge fan.
Hell yeah.
I'm like on the edge of my seat wanting to see the movie, but I want to give a shout out to him because I think he's one of the most achingly beautiful composers, and he's a master of dissonance. He's so incredible, and my introduction to him was from my mother. She introduced me to B12 unit. I don't know if you know that. Oh my
Yep.
God. Like that was supposed to end all be all, like electronic, like eat your heart out, everybody else. That's went after him, and it's just gorgeous. It's gorgeous. So much music that he did, and I'm so in love with him, and I'm so sad that he passed, but his music lives on. So thank you for that gift that you gave to the world, Mr. Sakamoto. That's all I have to say. Sorry, guys.
That was lovely.
I have to say too, though.
All right. Let's do maybe one more.
Hey guys, I just want to piggyback off that. I had the pleasure of serving him at a restaurant in New York whenever he was in town. He would come to my restaurant. And before I even knew who he was, we'd always have the most incredible conversations, and he was so kind. And then once I told him I was a musician, we started really talking and getting deep, and I started asking questions. And I remember asking him, what is your process, which is crazy because he's like, what? But then he started having his assistant play me his CDs, and I started digging in. So then my questions kind of became more intentional. And he talked a lot about color and how color for him directs him in so many just like different ways. And we talk about that dissonance, and we talk about like the feel that you get from color, and how that is like your process of writing. And he is just such a magnificent soul and person, and so inspiring, and he cared so much about everybody that he touched, and it's just really beautiful to see this happening, and that even though he's gone, we can just sit here and have such a beautiful conversation about the incredible man he was outside of his music and within his music. So.
Well, I think,
Can I ask a question before we start?
yeah.
Who here, raise a hand, has seen this film? Okay, okay. Very few of you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Are you here with someone, or did you come alone? Yes, you. Okay. You might want to find a friend. It's gonna be tricky getting out of here for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Don't be. It's a beautiful piece, and everyone involved with the film, I'm sure, is glad you're here. But yeah.
yeah, I don't, I mean, you both said it very beautifully. And, you know, and everyone here is really in for like a incredible communal, cathartic, extremely emotional experience. Anyway, I can't thank both of you enough for coming out.
Pleasure.
Barry Jenkins and Flying Lotus, thank you
Pleasure,
guys
yeah.
for coming to share and celebrate Ryuichi Sakamoto. Thanks so much.
Thank you.